I got my tuner on so you can trust me. And let's do a D major scale. Ready, go. Oh, sorry. It's this great new update on Zoom. Isn't the update great? Is that better? Okay, sorry about that. Okay, 1, 2, 3, go. Okay, how did everybody do? I'll give you my report. I did really good until the G string on the way down. I had 2 notes I had to fix. It was the C sharp, which is a bugger, and my low A. My initial attempt was a tiny bit flat. And I was talking to a student about this today because I'm teaching this guy, and he played cello growing up, and I think he got pretty good. And he's trying to play fiddle. And we were talking about the attempts when you try to play a note. And because he noticed that when the speed went up a little bit with this scale, he got flat. Anybody ever notice that? The speed goes up, you get a little bit flat. It's a very common thing. And what my reasoning, I think, is what happens is most people make 2 attempts at a note. Your initial attempt and then the little fixer, because you hear it for a second and you fix it a bit or whatever. But when you put the speed up, you lose that second attempt. You lose the time to do that, especially in a jig or a reel, right? So you have to anticipate that. Usually it's flat, not always, but most of the time it's flat. So let's try that again, and I'm going to try my best to make 1 attempt at all these notes and get it right the first try. 1, 2, 3, go. All right, that time mine was really much better. Except I did make 2 attempts at the high A. Did anybody hear me? Fix my A? No? I must be getting good at it. How did you guys do? Anybody have to make a couple attempts at notes? Yeah, and keep doing it. When you go slow like that, keep tuning those notes before you move on. Okay, it's really
What, Dan?
yeah.
What I did going down was when I got to the D, I used the 4th finger on the G string
Yeah.
because I found it was easier to get the C sharp that way.
Oh, that's a great idea. Yep, that's a really, really good idea. Now you just got to make sure your 4th finger, of course, is reliable.
Yeah,
But
it generally is. It generally
yeah,
is.
yeah, and it's easy to check. That's the nice thing, because if you're not quite sure if that 4th finger is right, you can just hit that D string and see. Very
Yeah,
quick little check.
yeah.
So yeah, that's a great idea. Anything like that. Anything like that. Let's do one more. And if anybody has problem notes, then I like to hear about problem notes. One more time. 1, 2, 3, go. I'm giving myself a good mark there. You guys feeling good? Let's try the arpeggio. Start on the low A. Ready, low A. Okay, I did a perfect game there that time. I'm going to try it again though because it could have been a fluke. You know, even a stop clock is right twice a day. So let's see if it was a fluke. One more time. Ready, 2, 3, go. That time I had to 2 attempt 1 note. How'd you guys do? You feeling good? Okay. Now, double stops in the key of D. So there's a few, when you do double stops, especially in a tune as ornamentation, you always have a mind to what key you're in, basically. And you start with arpeggio notes. So the notes that are in the arpeggio of the key that you're working with, they always work together. If you take, in this case, we got D, F sharp, and A. That's the D major arpeggio, okay? So you can put D and F sharp together. Sounds great. This is what it sounds like. See that? Really, really nice double stop there. It has a bit of a country twang, especially when you bring in the 2 like that. So when I'm playing downtown during like a Merle Haggard song or something like that, I might do that a few times in the run of a night. And then the D and the A together sound great. It's a fifth. And you can also do the upper one. Now, the upper one is tricky. That's a 1-finger double stop, and it's another fifth. But it's where you play the D on the A string and the A on the E string. And it's a beautiful one. You hear that? That fifth ringing out in the high register. And it's not easy to tune. Now you can see when I do a fifth, I have small fingers. So I have to go kind of across. See that? And it's twisted. It's not straight across. And so it got a little bit of an angle to it because the spot is not the same when you do a fifth. It's not the same on both strings. You always have to lean one way or the other. Okay? And like I said, it's good to tune your lower note first. Geez, that's amazing now. I was playing that fifth, and my D string is just going nuts. It's just feeling those vibrations and as a result vibrating on its own. Okay, so that's how you know a fifth is great because you can only be in tune or at a tune. You can hear it right away when you're at a tune. Now, the other thing is, let's see, so D and A together, F and D together, F and A together. Very common double stop in the key of D. So that's F sharp on the D string and open A. See that? And then there's one more way that you can do that in the upper register. So you can play the D on the A string and the F on the E string. That's a third, right? The notes are the interval is 3 notes apart. And they call that the bluegrass interval. See that? So, and it's good to do that finger pattern on all your strings, of course. See that? And then let me see if I'm missing any. Well, that's good enough for now, but I have a little pattern for practicing double stops in a key. Okay? So let's say you got D major, and that's what we're working on today. So we're going to take the first note of the D major arpeggio, which is the low A, and we're going to play D with it. See that? D and A together. And then for the next one, we're going to play the open A and the D together. And then we're going to play the F sharp and the A together. Okay. And then we're going to play those open strings again. And now we're going to do an octave. So we're going to play A3 and open D. And go ahead and slide into it. The next one we're going to do is A3 and E1. So D and F sharp, the one I just showed you. A3 and E1. And then the last one we're going to do is that fifth with the one finger. Now, let me show you what all that sounds like when you do it in a string. Okay? Because it has a certain sound to it, and it's really good for your intonation. So let me show you. See how that works? You get good at all of them. And then when you're playing a tune in the key of D, you'll find that those come to hand depending on the melody that you're playing. Okay? So, the pattern is, now I think I have this written out. I'm just going to look. D major double stop exercise. Spinning wheel of death. Uh-oh. No, it's okay. Oh, shoulder rest fell off. Oh my god. So I do have that. I got a PDF of it, and I will send it to you guys right this second. Okay, so we got David, Susan, Paul, Rick, Paul, and Sandy. And this is D major double stops. Okay, I just sent you the double stop pattern, but I'm just going to go over it so that you have it kind of in your mind, as it were. So the first one, the one we start with is G1 and open D. Okay, first one is G1 and open D. After that, the next one is open D, open A. Okay. After that, we got D2 and open A. And then we got the opens again. And then we got A3 open D, that's the octave. A3 E1, that's the third. And then, oh, in this particular one, we got the octave. So we're going to play the octave again. E3 and open A. Okay, that's another octave. And then we just reverse it on the way down. E1, A3 together. A3, open D together. Open A, open D together. Open A, D2. Open A, open D. And then back to open D, G1. Is that clear as mud? If you're looking at it, it should be okay. So, and can everybody see that? Did I send it successfully? Can you see it, David?
No, I can't see it yet, but that's simply because my printer is downstairs.
Oh, well,
Okay, and
I'll just
so,
put it up on my screen now, and you can share my screen, or I can share my screen.
oh, okay. Well, that's fine. I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem, no problem. So let's see. There we go. You seeing that? Make it bigger. Okay, does that work? It's handwritten, I know. My mom told me I had terrible handwriting. And it seems
No,
like,
that's good. That's good. I
yep.
can make it out. Yep.
Okay, good. It seems I've passed on the handwriting to my boy. My girl, on the other hand, is very nice. She likes doing cursive. Okay, now when we're first doing these double stops, I like to do 2 bows per set. Okay, so a down bow and an up bow. You'll find that doing the double stop, having your bow on both strings, feels different on the down bow than it does on the up bow. Okay, the other thing is common misconception about playing on 2 strings that you have to push down to get 2 strings. Please don't do that. You never push the bow. You just angle that bow until you're on another string, and then keep going on both. Very gentle. Okay, if you're not hitting them, it's angle. So let's give it a try. So let's do the first one. G1, open D. A down bow and then an up bow. Ready? Go. Open A, open D. D2, open A. Open A, open D. A3, open D. A3, E1. E3, open A. Back to the E1, A3. A3, open D. Open A, open D. D2, open A. Open A, open D. G1, open D. That's it. That's not all the double stops in the key of D, of course. There's lots more. I showed you a few there. And if you get brave, when you get to the top of the pattern there where you play the octave E3 and open A, you can try your 5th instead. Okay? That's A3 and E3 together at the same time, one finger. I gotta turn a light on here. Okay. So anyway, so let's try that again. Any questions or problems or anything like that before we try it again? No? Good. Gentle with the bow. Remember that if you heave in, it's really hard. One of the problems with doing the double stops is that each string requires a different what they call weight against the bow, right? The E requires none at all. The A needs just the weight of your fingers, fine. The D needs a little bit of a nudge to get going because it's big and heavy, and the G does too, except a bigger nudge to get going. But if you press on those strings too hard with too much weight with a slow bow, you can watch your tuner, even if you're on an open string, you can watch the tuner go like that. It can flatten you up to half a semitone, just too slow or too heavy bow. So when you're doing double stops, try to split the difference between how much weight each string needs. For instance, if I'm playing the A string and the E string together, I put all the weight on the A string and I leave whatever's left over is plenty for the E string. Do you see what I mean? Okay, that's an example. So just keep that in mind. If you're at a tune, could be your bow. Let's give it another try. And since everybody can see it, I'm going to stop yelling out the numbers because it does my head in. Okay, let's do it. Ready, 2, 3, go. All right. How did everybody get along doing double stops? Is it all right?
I always have a bit of a problem with the first and the last in that series.
G1 and open D?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough one. Huh?
It always sounds a bit off to my ear.
Can you play me one?
Sure.
Yay. That's not too bad, Susan. That's pretty good. Now, your first attempt, you had a lot of weight on your bow. Now, also, you're doing a little bit of this here. Little Rocky Rockies. Keep her straight. There you go. Very good. That's a good free ring and double stop. And so when you hear the fiddle ringing those two strings out freely, that's when you know it's a good one. It's going well. Okay? Let's do it one more time. And please stop me if you have any questions, because double stops are tricky. Ready, go. All right. How you doing? How's everybody getting along with the double stops? Is this something you... Yeah, what's that?
I realized I've always played double stops putting too much pressure on the bow, I think, because even now when I play them, I realize like I'm at the end of my bow already and everyone else is still, right? Because I'm pushing harder, so I have to move the bow faster. So so that's definitely good something for me to practice. Try
Let me
to
show you how
play with
they
as
got
light of a
us.
bow as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Always, right? I work as little as possible. I barely move if I have to.
So do I.
So,
Oh shoot, it's recorded. Now the public knows.
Yeah.
I work as little as possible. Hope my work doesn't see this video.
Yeah, fiddle players don't like to do anything as little moving around, as little mitigation as possible. Now, watch this. So this is the way they had us do it in the Suzuki camp. Start on the G, tilt your bow until you hit the D, and keep going.
Oh shoot, it's recorded. Now the public knows.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Always, right? I work as little as possible. that was a good one. You hear the ring off of that? That's what you're going for. See, not a tentative, but like a big explosion of sound. There we go. That's the best way to practice it because as you approach the next string, you'll learn exactly how much weight it needs. And you can not give it any more. See what I mean? And do it on the up bow too, it's different. Okay, but that's good. And it's going to make you, it's going to, speed you up a little bit too because it's a lot less work.
Yeah, another thing I noticed about double stops is that they're louder. So like I sometimes play an all instrument jam, still acoustic, but like loads of guitars, and like I'm like the only fiddle there. At first, when I started playing, like I'm like, oh, I'm like I don't know if I'm hitting the right notes, I don't know the right key, and like and then everybody's looking at me strange, and I'm thinking like, oh, I'm like totally out of tune. It's like, and they're like, Paul, we don't hear you, we don't hear anything you're doing. And then there
Yeah.
was like another fiddle player who joined who also joins the jam once in a while, and she was just playing double stops for almost the entire time, and people could actually hear her then, right? So
Yeah.
it's there's also that element of it too, that I think double
Oh,
stops are just louder.
now you're muted there, David, but I'm sure I'd love to hear what you're saying. Unmuty.
I was just asking Paul a question. Paul, how many guitar players are there?
Oh, like probably four or something, or on
Oh,
average. It
geez, yeah.
changes every week to
That's
week.
way too many.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's like it's an open jam, so anybody with any instrument can show up.
Sure.
And yeah, that's just yeah. So sometimes it's less, sometimes it's only two guitars, but yeah, sometimes there's
Yeah.
more. But yeah.
Now, there's a couple of things that I'm going to tell you about that, though. So, first of all, the double stops are a good way to punch up your sound, and it gives texture. Okay, so like for instance, I'll just give you an example. Here's Made Behind the Bar. You guys know Made Behind the Bar, otherwise known as the
Yeah.
Barmaids? Yeah, okay. So
Yeah.
here it is with double stops. You see how it adds body, it adds texture. And so, for instance, when you're playing on your own, when you're sitting there all by yourself in front of a crowd, and you got to try to make it all kind of have some body, it's a good thing to do. See that? Now, it depends on what group you're playing with, eh? Because if you're playing with the bluegrassers, you can double stop every note of every tune, and nobody will mind. If you're in an Irish Scottish setting, they don't use it near as much. We use it pretty sparingly. I've been accused sometimes of using too many double stops because in Cape Breton we live in this weird place where you teeter between country and Celtic. It's the most bizarre thing in the world, man. But anyway, and I don't mind the odd twang. You know what I mean? But anyway, so keep that in mind. But also volume on the fiddle. A very common misconception is that you get more volume on the fiddle by digging in, but that doesn't give you more volume. That just gives you a whole lot of crunching and nasty, scrapey sounds. What you want to do to increase your volume on the fiddle is increase bow speed. So here's a slow bow. Here's a fast bow. You see how much more volume there is, eh? And you can see there, the first go, I was covering about that much in an eighth note. Real estate, that's what they call that, real estate, right? The second time, I'm three times as much real estate. See, and that means a faster bow because you're covering more ground. Okay, so the more bow you use, let me give you an example of full bore. You see how much power comes out of that? And of course, I got the German.
Mm-hmm.
She's powerful. She's a honker. Depends on your fiddle too. Dad's fiddle is much quieter. Much quieter than this German. So, and Dad's fiddle is what I was using all weekend. I was playing at McVeigh's Fine Irish Pub downtown, and I had Dad's fiddle going. But it's easy to increase volume with that because it's got a pickup. So I just, you know what I mean? But yeah, so first of all, bow speed is how you get volume. Double stops can help, but you want to get that bow speed. It requires a little bit of practice. How fast can I move it before it sucks? How slow can I move it before it sucks? There's something called the 1 minute down bow, where you try to do a down bow for 1 full minute. It's a classical thing. I've tried it. I've done it a few times. I can get to about 50 seconds, somewhere around there. Very difficult, but it's basically an exercise in feeling the bow roll over the string every time as it goes along and having control over it. You see what I mean? So you mess around with it. You see about that. Now the other thing about hearing yourself. That's what you do to hear yourself in a loud jam. Okay? You lean that ear. This is one of the design features of the violin. You lean that ear towards your sound hole, and now your fiddle is in like headphones. Like hearing your own fiddle in headphones. Extremely present. You can hear yourself over anybody that's around you. And that's how they tune up in the orchestra, with everybody tuning up around them. That's how they do it. Now, be careful. You can damage your hearing, apparently, if you use it too much. And apparently the old masters, Jascha Heifetz and Fritz Kreisler and those guys, they used it too much. And it's certainly, when I watch footage of them, their head is laying on the fiddle like this, you know, because they're listening so deep into their sound. They're trying to get every little bit of it out. And they just kind of automatically put the ear there all the time. But you got to watch that. See what I mean? Okay? I know it's what it's like in a loud session, man. I know what it's like. Especially with all those guitars. The Celtic Orchestra has 6 of them. But we outnumber them greatly with the fiddles. Okay, Banished Misfortune. Shall we give it a try? Let's do it. I'm going to put it up on my screen so that I don't improvise. I do that a lot. Okay. Banish. Here it is. Yay. Okay, so let's have a go at it. We will go slow. We will get this tune, and it'll be wonderful. Okay. 1, 2, 3. faster. We'll take a little breather. The long one. Any issues before we speed her up? Because when you want to speed something up, you have to make sure there's not going to be anything in your way. So let's talk about it. If there's something in your way, let me hear it. No? Oh,
I don't
good.
think so. The only thing is, okay, Dan,
Yeah.
I haven't got the rolls yet.
Okay.
Like the end of the first line, I haven't got those rolls yet. I know how to do them, but I haven't got them yet.
Okay.
And how
are you
about
doing them on the slow?
I'm sorry?
Are you doing when we go slow? Are you getting them in there? Or are you really good? Really good. Now, did you do them in one bow though, or two bows? Perfect. Oh God, that's good. That's really good. If you do them with that rhythm when we're going slow, you're going to get them in there.
Okay. Now, the other question was at the beginning of the last line,
Yeah.
the C natural. I'm
Yeah.
assuming there's a roll on that too.
Oh, I'd be rolling that big time. Cinnamon roll that.
Okay. So it's
Yep. And the C roll is a tough one.
okay.
It's the lower position of your two, so it's a little bit more unwilling to hop up. So I find that I have to kind of really flick it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. But the C
Okay,
roll is a
thank you,
challenge.
Dan.
Yeah, no problem. Good questions. And like I said, that was good rhythm with those rolls for slow. So if we're going at that tempo, please just go ahead and get them in there. Because if you can get them in slow, when we go fast, you'll flick your fingers one day and it'll be there. Okay. Any other questions? That was great. Any other problems or obstructions or barriers or shortcomings? Let's do it. You got a question, Paul?
Well, I was wondering actually for the roll, how do you do an open D roll?
You can't. You can do a fake roll. You mean on the D string?
Yeah, well, because that run, the DED, that one in the third bar of the first line, the end of the first line there.
Yeah.
When you're saying roll, you roll like all three of those triplets, or?
Oh, let me see. I have to look. I get so confused. This thing is falling off so much, driving me out of my mind. Okay.
I think that's more of a grace note, isn't it?
Oh, you mean the end of the first line?
Yeah, end of the first line.
Yeah, you can't do a roll on there. So yes, that's right, David. You can do that. So that's all we do. All you can do there. See that? Yeah, but you make it ornamental. Very momentary E. It's like when the reggae bass players do that little ghost note before the note. That's what it's like. It makes it rhythmic.
Okay, so then you roll the next two, is what you're saying, right?
And then you roll in the next two. See how that works together there? Nice little cluster. Little cluster of ornaments on the Christmas tree. Okay, let's try it.
Got it.
Little tiny bit faster. Get your rolls in if you can. Get your mordants, your zesty mordants. Whatever you can get in there. 1, 2, 3. Little faster. You hear all the double stops? I was doing them on purpose. Give you examples.
Nope, not yet.
Too fast?
Well, it was a bit fast the last time. Yeah, that's at least beyond me.
Yeah.
I
Now
don't know
that
about the
was
rest
just
of
to
you,
give
but
you an indication, because it's always good to check your ceilings. You know, it's always good to see where your ceiling's at because it moves. Hopefully up. So deedle dee deedle dee day dee deedle dee day dee. So that was 100. So that's up there. That's almost pretty well at
yeah.
tempo. So give yourself
Were
a
you
break.
playing?
You know?
Were you playing the D major double stops on that one?
Oh, lots of them. Yeah, yeah. So for
The ones we
instance,
just did, basically.
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
I don't think I chose any non-arpeggio notes that time. So I'll just show you. If you guys take a breather, because we just did that 3 times, and I'm going to play the tune a little bit slower, and I'm going to do all those kinds of double stops that you can see as examples. Now, again, I wouldn't normally do all this, but I'll just show you. Geez, that's really overboard. Now, the one double stop that did not involve the arpeggio notes that I did anybody hear it and be able to tell what it was? It had a strange sound to it. It was the C. And that's because that's a completely different key there. That's for the guitar player. They would be changed to a C chord there. And that's what I do is E and C together. See that? Classic C double stop. See that? Very nice. The other thing is, so you hear that crunch? That's G and A together, and that's a major second. That is like Thelonious Monk level. But it's only because as soon as I'm finished, you hear that? The release from that tension there? Yeah. So I do that all the time. But I was a huge fan of Thelonious Monk. So I might be a little different in that respect. But seconds are really great like that. Okay. Anything else?
Hey,
Any
Dan?
questions about that? Yes.
Dan, I think you're also doing an F sharp and an A, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. But those are arpeggio notes. Those are notes from the D major arpeggio.
Yeah.
So there are no brainers.
Yeah.
For the whole tune, you can do arpeggio notes, no brainers, and it'll always work. Okay, let's try it.
Mm-hmm.
We'll go medium, and you can experiment. And I'm going to watch your faces because that's my favorite when people are trying to do double stops. It's my favorite thing. Trying to. Anyway, let's give it a go. Not too fast. Okay. 1, 2, 3. love that one. That's one of my favorite ways to end a D tune is to play that G1 and open D, the A and the E D together. That's a very nice way of finishing a tune. So, anybody have any luck with the double stops? No, Susan? I know you've been trying for a while.
Not on purpose anyway.
Not on purpose, that's the thing.
Tried them. Even tried the C one a couple of times, and yeah, that's coming. It's coming.
Oh, good.
It's easier to get the F sharp A one.
Oh,
the
definitely.
F sharp A one. You know, like.
Good. And then on the E, you can do the C natural. So. See that with the E. E, open E. E string. Yeah, like that. Because that I do that a lot. That's kind of an A minor thing, right? Or C thing. Yeah. Very useful there too as well. It's not really an arpeggio note, but it's cool. Great. Okay, cool. So I'm going to let you play with that for a week, and then we'll revisit it there next week and see if you're getting anywhere, putting some stuff in. And I think you have a good, and you can go back to the video if you're wondering what you can put in there. You can just look at my crazy example of way too much double stopping. Now, let's think about stuff that we can strengthen that we were playing before. What's the latest tune that we were playing? Anybody remind me? I'm so terrible.
Did John Brennan's last week.
John Brennan's, yes, let's practice it. See if we can do some speed trials.
Yeah, thanks to Paul on that one.
Yeah, that's great. Good tune. There we go.
Thank you for humoring me on this tune. I feel spoiled for I picked the tune and now we're all gonna work on it. It's great.
Oh, but this is a really good one. I would eventually get around to this one anyway there, Paul. Like you've probably heard it at Noonan's. I think we've played it half a dozen times at Noonan's.
Yeah, so, quite possibly, yes.
A very good one to have, and it's great. David was emailing me during the week. He was playing around with the bowing, David? Yeah, it's good, really good.
Yes, I have been. Yeah,
it's good, and it's a good one for that. Anyway, so let's go slow. Give ourselves a chance of success. That's what Louis Armstrong used to say. You got to play slow enough that you can get it right. At least have a chance. And we'll speed it up from there. Let's try kind of like somewhere around there. Okay? Let's give it a go. 1, 2, 3, go. those eighth notes. All right.
Little fast the last time.
But let's see what tempo that was then. Anybody want to venture a guess?
Well, it's at least 100.
Yum deedle day, deedle dappy deedle dick'n dappa deedle dappy day. But that's about what we were doing, right? Deedle
A
deedle.
little faster than that, actually.
Was it? Yum deedle day, deedle 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 dick'n dappy deedle dappy deedle dappy deedle dappy deedle da. 90. 90 beats per
Oh
minute
boy!
is where we were at
Wow.
there. Yeah.
Okay.
That was
So
pretty good though.
I have a question, Dan.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question. Okay, part of this whole Georgia Shuffle thing that I was talking to you about, you sort of have to decide, I guess, whether you're going to put the stress on 1 and 3 or 2 and 4.
4.
Okay, now the way I'm doing it right now is 2 and 4.
Yeah.
I'm wondering for dancers, if you're playing for dancers, dancing a reel. I was asking my wife this because she used to be a dancer, and like, do you still put it on 2 and 4? Do you put it on 1 and 3? She was sort of favoring 1 and 3.
Your foot does 1 and 3. And that's plenty. You need, for a reel to get the arses moving, you got to do the backbeat. I'll show you. See what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what really gets everything going. And for the downbeat, you have to have a strong downbeat. Like for anything in 4/4, you need a strong downbeat. Otherwise, you're not going to get the backbeat. And it's your foot that does the downbeat. So you need a good strong one. But for emphasis, for the groove, you're tending towards the backbeat. But you got to set it up with the good strong downbeat. Do you see what I mean?
Okay, is that why you always see Cape Breton fiddlers always tapping their foot when they play?
Oh
Is it always
God,
on the 1 and
yes.
3?
It's always 1 and 3. All jig and reel cultures in the world tap on 1 and 3. The difference in Cape Breton
Okay.
is that we tend to use the whole foot. So you
Yeah.
kind of hop up on
Yeah.
your toe and
Yeah.
let the whole foot come down. Whereas the Irish people, they just do just the toe.
Oh, okay.
Which I find hard to
Got
do.
it. Thank you.
No problem. And I noticed when I was playing at the bar at McVeigh's Fine Irish Pub, with those boys that I play with, they tend to slow down a little bit, which means that I have to drive my foot into the floor. And when we're playing at those places, I'm standing up. So basically, I'm standing there like this, and I gotta do tree pose so that I can go while I'm playing. And I'm going to tell you, my right knee is killing me a little bit there today. Oh, because of that. And if the boys would just stop dragging, then I wouldn't have to do it all the time. But, this seems to be my role. Okay, let's try it again. Same tempo. We'll keep it at the 90. See if we can get it a little bit smoother. And then we'll see if we can up it a tiny bit. See if we can push it to the edge. Swipe up my strings. Oh, I was going to say, Paul, what kind of strings have you got on your fiddle? For talking about volume, what kind of strings do you use on your fiddle?
So, I mean, these are strings that I've been using because I've had this fiddle since I was a kid, and I got this fixed last year, and they just put the same strings on that I've always put on, which are Parasto tonicas. So,
you know what? Get rid of them tonicas.
Okay.
I consider them to be some of the crappiest strings going.
Okay.
Get a set of dominants because
Okay.
they have way more volume.
Oh, really?
The looser the string, the more volume they have.
Mm,
Okay? These ones that I use, Il Canon, are very loose. Like when you push on the G string, it just falls down. You know?
okay.
And it is, they're loud. But you need finesse. To play with what they call slinky strings or loose strings, you need finesse with the bow because they're very easy to choke off. Right? So they're
Mm,
just as easy to get going really good, but they're just as easy to choke off. So some people get them and they find them frustrating. Dominant is right down the middle. So
mm.
it gives you probably the most volume you can have before you get into a really, really soft string. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
The
I
tonicas tend to be quite tight. They're very tight,
mm, mm.
which
Interesting.
means not a lot of vibration, right? That's the thing. If you picture the string, if it gets to go like this, it's going to give you lots of sound. If it can only go like this, it's going to give you a little sound. My dad used to use Dr. Tomastic Precision strings, the cheapest steel strings, so tight. My friend Kim called them bridge cables, and just not very much volume and thin volume because it's just not vibrating. It's just kind of like. So that's what the deal with strings. So if you're having trouble, people not hearing you, definitely try strings. It might make a huge difference.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean they're probably due for a replacement anyway. I got them last year, so
Yeah, if
yeah, I
it's
might
been a
do
year,
that.
get new strings. It's the best thing ever. The only thing better than new strings is new strings and new hair at the same time. It's my favorite.
Oh, horsehair, right?
I said that to a group once, and this lady was like, "I just thought I didn't know what you were talking about. I just thought I love getting out of the hairdressers too. It's great." Okay, here we go. Keeping it at the same tempo. I got new strings and new hair right now. It's awesome. I'm enjoying it. And you got to mute. I'll do it. I got you. There. A one, two. A 1, 2, 3, go. Little faster. So let's see what tempo that was at the end there. I'm sure it probably was a bit of a struggle, but let's see what it was. Okay, how did you feel at that tempo, that last tempo? Is it quick, Sandy?
Totally totally out of control.
Okay, how about you, Paul?
Well, I mean, it definitely told me what parts I needed to work on.
It
There was
told you.
like small
That's what it
parts where I'm
does.
like, oh, it's like this is fun, and then there are other parts like holy, like going down. Like it reminded me of like the people I saw skiing this past weekend, going like there was one kid going down snowplow down like a black diamond, just screaming help, help. Kind of reminded me of that.
You know, when I was 19, it was my first. Well, let me just tell you how you did, and I'll demonstrate so that you believe me. But that was 81 on the metronome. 81. So it wasn't even as fast as what we did before. Now, I'm going to show you so that you believe me, because I know it's hard to believe. And I wouldn't lie. I'm a car dealer's son, but I went the other way. I don't lie. Okay. That's 81. Okay? So that's what that you guys that's your top tempo where you are the young fella on the ski hill going, help me, help me. But I was going to tell you about this gig, talking about playing fast. So I always encourage it because, like Paul said, it brings up what's going to go wrong. Like what it's the canary in the coal mine. When you're going fast, it's a stress test. Whatever's going to go wrong is going to go wrong, and then you can tell. You can go back and you can work on those on the slow. Okay. But also, it sometimes brings out the best in you in terms of groove. So when you're desperately trying to keep up, sometimes by default you end up grooving because of the consistent effort or something. I don't know what it is, but I remember when I was 19, I was a drummer, and it was my first gig playing with these guys that were really, really good. It was this guy, Nate Strong, who played the piano from Chicago. He was, at the time, this was 1996, and he was probably in his late 60s. So he had played with everybody, all the big wigs in Chicago. And they used to do 2-week runs up there. So you'd have an artist for 2 weeks, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then there'd be a different person. And so I was playing with this guy, and he let off a tune called High Heel Sneakers. And it was one of these oompa blues tunes, you know, oompa, 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 oompa. And he counts it up, 1, 2, okay, 3, and I'm going, oh my God! And I'm just desperate, like your man on the ski hill, and I'm just like, okay, now I crash, now I crash, now I crash. And I didn't crash somehow. Desperation, total desperation. I got to the end of it. And I was like, oh my God. Oh. And he turns around and he goes, that was the best I ever played that tune ever. And I think it was just that adrenaline of trying to keep up actually created a groove. When you get a groove going, it's like driving an old rattle-trap jalopy down a road where you can't believe it's all working and you're like, oh, whoa, you know, like that's what a groove is. It really happens on its own. And so, yeah, so that's why I really encourage going fast, doing it anyway, see what goes wrong, see if anything goes right, because sometimes people surprise themselves. Okay? Now let's try her a couple of more times, and then I'm going to leave you guys with that idea, and I want you to play around with it. So we won't try it at 81. We'll back her up to 70. Okay, 1970. Deedle dap deedle dap deedle dap die hip deedle dap deedle die. 1, 2, 3, go. Yay. Anything go wrong? The last time? No?
How about anything go right?
It's like the waiter that walks up to the table of Karens and says, "Is anything okay?"
Yeah. Okay, so what you're saying then, Dan, is you want us to practice with a metronome this week?
Only if you can. You know what? How I get people to use the metronome is if you have one, put the tempo
Yeah,
on
I
for
have
2
one.
minutes, listen to it, turn it off, play your tune at approximately that tempo. Unless you can play with a metronome, like some people have a lot of problem playing with a metronome. It's a hard thing to do. It took me
Mhm.
some good time to get it. And so I don't like to discourage people because it can be discouraging. I find it just as useful to use it to check on your tempos. So if you play something successfully and nothing goes wrong, see how fast that was using your metronome. This one here, tunable, is great because it just has a button you can tap. Yum deedle die deedle dappy deedle dappin dappa deedle dappy die, and then it tells you what the tempo is. That's what I do with you guys, and I do it with
Mhm.
the orchestra. And then you have a reference. You just use it as a reference. So you say, okay, well, yesterday I was playing it up about 90. So, but I was going better at 85. So I'm going to stick to 85 today and maybe try it at 90 a couple of times. See what I mean? And not you don't have to directly
Mhm.
use it. You can just kind of put it on at 85. And then you just turn it off and try your best to play at that tempo. See what I mean?
Mhm.
Or play with
Yep.
it. It's great. I love playing with the metronome. I love it because you get a groove going with the metronome. When you can't hear the metronome click, you know you're grooving with it, and it's a really really nice thing. Now the problem with the tunable on the computer is that the light is totally off, the flashy thing. Like it's crazy. It makes no sense at all. The sound is fine, but the light is just like insane. I don't know what it is. Some kind of
Yeah.
technical thing. I don't
Mhm.
know. Anyway, so yeah, using the metronome, but you don't necessarily have to play with it because it can be
Okay.
discouraging and a taskmaster. Anyway, so that's your
Yeah.
homework, guys. Working on those tunes at those tempos with a bit of that ornamentation and double stops, and we'll see you next week. All right? Bye bye.